Time to move on, have some dialogue about Jasmine Crockett. Oh, I've been waiting to share this with you. So we're just going to get right into it. In case you missed it, this is from the clapback queen herself.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in strong support of my bill, H.R. 4922, the D.C. Crimes Act. Rather than prioritizing the safety of law-abiding and protecting the lives of innocent residents and visitors, district officials have actively facilitated dysfunction and chaos through their progressive soft-on-crime policies. Instead of addressing the clear epidemic of youth crime in the city, the D.C. City Council increased the age of youth offenders to individuals 24 years old and younger, meaning fully grown legal adults in the District of Columbia can receive sentences meant for children. This is simply insane. And that is why I introduced the D.C. Crimes Act, which lowers the definition of youth from under the age of 25 to under the age of 18, removes the ability of judges to sentence youth offenders below mandatory minimum guidelines, and requires the D.C. Attorney General to establish a public website containing much needed statistics on juvenile crime in D.C. The Trump administration's efforts have shown that lawlessness is a choice. And it is time for Congress to step up, adhere to our constitutional duty, and firmly address crime in the nation's capital.
Many people know me for being able to do alliterations, and all I could think about was amnesia allows adolescent accountability avoidance agility from across the aisle. So work with me for a second. Imagine being a young man born to Jamaican and Panamanian parents who messed up not once, but twice. Imagine standing in front of a judge with your whole future hanging in the balance, and instead of prison, you are given a promise of mercy. Your record gets wiped clean. You get a second chance at life. Now imagine taking that promise and turning it into promotion. You go to college, you get a job, and even become a member of Congress. That's what redemption looks like. That's what America is supposed to be about. And that is exactly the story of the next wannabe governor from Florida. As a young man, he went through pretrial diversion for misdemeanor marijuana possession. As an adult, yet younger than 24, he was charged with and ultimately placed on probation for felony bribery charges, which ultimately were 2 expunged. He was given a third chance, and now he's the face of a bill that would not afford young people in Washington, D.C. the same opportunities afforded to him. Let me be real. If he had grown up under Donald Trump's America or under the very D.C. crime bill he's pushing today, he wouldn't be standing here as a member of Congress. He'd still be living with the weight of those charges. So let's call this what it is, opportunities for me, but not for thee. He climbed the ladder of redemption, and now he's yanking it right up from the D.C. youth. See, most of us were taught to lift as you climb, but clearly some have forgotten to lift as they climb, and now they are committed to telling the next generation to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. I will not sit quiet while a man who was saved by grace turns around and tries to snatch grace away from others. If we're going to be real about crime, about communities,
time
about...
has expired.
I'd like to yield for an additional minute, please.
Gentlewoman is recognized.
About second chances and even third chances, then it needs to start with us looking in the mirror and remembering that even the author of this bill has a story too before he tries to lecture DC on safety. And it would be complete hypocrisy to have, hypothetically, someone convicted of 34 felonies to lecture DC on what to do with youthful offenders who have been scientifically shown not to have fully developed brains under the age of 25, especially if said multi-count convicted felon was in his 70s when he was convicted. What would be his excuse? Because his brain would be fully developed. And with that, I will yield back.
All right. So I want to make sure that I clear a couple of things up. Obviously, that was Byron Donalds that started that clip, and it was Jasmine Crockett that followed up the rear. My apologies that I didn't make that clear. The second thing I want to say is that I just love how she used him as the example for why the programs in DC are, and the people in DC, the youth of DC, are worth redemption. She used the person authoring the bill against it It's just masterful. And then, of course, at the end, she invoked Donald Trump and pointed out the hypocrisy there. There are a lot of things that contribute, a lot of factors that contribute, and personal responsibility and accountability, of course, is one of those things. But a lot of factors contribute to people's circumstances, and to just throw the whole person away is not fair. And people can't see that because they're so comfortable doing it, especially when the person whose life they're throwing away is black or brown. And for people that fight for those black and brown people that deserve a shot at redemption, that aren't just bad actors that are victims of circumstance, etc. People like Jasmine Crockett, we salute her all day. I've shared this before, but a lot of people will say to me, well, you're one of the good ones. If everybody was like you and, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, man, I'm from Compton, California. If I would have stayed in Compton, California, I would have been a gangbanger. I would have been robbing you. Just that simple. I had some fortunate things happen along the way, but that was what you did. I had given up on life before I even started living it. I just knew that was going to be my future, and I would have done it, and I would have been really good at it. And for people that have never been in those circumstances, people that can't reframe their life, it's hard for them to see that as realistic. But I can see it because I was there and now I'm here, and I can see all the positive things that happened along the way that prevented the necessity, getting out of that environment where that's really the only thing that people did, because of the necessity of the desperation inherent in that environment. And so, shout out to Jasmine Crockett for using him, like Figure 4 leg locked him into his own language. It was masterful. I loved it. So, Q, your thoughts?
First thing I want to point out, because I've heard you say this before, and you said as an affirmed truth, but I did not leave Detroit. I spent my entire youth there. Mm-hmm. Around the same violence, the same gangs, the same guns, the same crime, the same poverty.
That's fair.
When Detroit was the murder capital of the world, I was a child there. And I did not grow up to rob you. I did not join a gang. I did not go down that path as if it was the only one. And I do not think that was the only path in Compton, California either. So I've heard you say that before, and I bristle, but I have to interject that every youth that spends their entire youth and upbringing in Compton is not left to that only one path.
Yeah, that's fair.
There are redemption stories, but there are also forks in the road. And I have friends who did not survive the year after graduating high school because of the choices that you just kind of have to make where we're from. But I will not just enter it into a foregone conclusion that the only choice you had was that was presented to you when you were a youngin'. With regard to Jasmine Crockett, the first thing that I loved about that video is that before she concluded her point, her time ran out.
Yeah.
They told her time ran out. She stopped talking. Someone thought it'd be important to let her finish making that point.
Amen.
It granted her an additional minute, and she finished making that point. This entire party, the entire thing is hypocrisy. The entire thing is take. The entire thing is for me, not for thee. For everything: money, opportunity, second chances, education, healthcare, food,
DEI,
all of it for me, not for thee. And their base hears them say that and cheers it on. They're talking to you too, by the way. You triple Trumpers or whatever you call yourself, they're talking to you too. The man that authored the bill that would deny second chances to young people, that would make young people charge as adults at a younger age. The man who does not want them to have that road to redemption is a man who is only where he is because of the very, very second chances he's trying to throw in the trash for everybody else. The very ladder, as she said, he used to climb to where he is. He wants to kick down behind him so that no one else has access to it.
I love it. She flamed him, and she's really good at that. So anytime she's got something to say, we try to get her in or at least shout her out or share her content if we can. All right.